Welcome back. We're rolling with the Stones, and this is our drive-through and review of General Coffee State Park in Georgia.
We found the park originally through the Georgia State Parks Junior Ranger Program booklet. It was listed on the back with all the other stuff. After doing some research on the park through Google and gastateparks.org, we decided to book the campsite.
We used Reserve America to book our site. It was not site-specific, so we were able to choose our site when we arrived. The check-in time was 1 p.m.
They accept major credit cards and cash as forms of payment for your stay. There's a $5 park entrance fee on top of the site fees. We arrived mid-January. During our stay, we did see it fairly full and busy, but also mostly empty. Even during the busy times, it was still a quiet campground.
The rules were pretty standard, and the quiet hours are from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. The roads leading into the park, as you can see from the video, are paved and in pretty good condition. There are two camping areas for RVs. The first loop has gravel roads, and the second loop is all paved. The first loop is more scenic than the second, and there are more trees and plants growing between the sites, allowing for more privacy. Some of the trees are close to the sites, and RVs and travel trailers with slides might have problems with clearance in the first loop. There are 50 pull-through sites total between the two loops. The campsites are average in size, with some being slightly bigger than others. Most sites were 30 amp, but there were 50 amp sites available, and they were marked on the electrical box at the site. Each site did come with a picnic table and fire ring. Firewood was available for purchase at the park office.
The campsites cost $30 a night or $210 a week. There are two comfort stations available in the campground. The comfort station that was in the first loop does appear to be older. The showers are small, and the pressure left a lot to be desired. The men's showers in the first loop did not have locks on the doors, and neither did the women's. The bathrooms that were in the second loop were much better with handicap access. There were washers and dryers available at the comfort stations, and the cost between 75 cents and $1. There was a small bookshelf located at the comfort station in the second loop that had books and magazines available.
There were several trails, an amphitheater, a lake, and a working farm with museum. The museum's only open certain days with limited hours and is ran by volunteers. The park did offer rental of boats, kayaks, and pedal boats. We used the Sprint service, and we did not have service in most of the park, but we did have some 3G service in the campground, but it was limited. At the park office, they do have free Wi-Fi.
The dump station is located before the first campground loop. You can enter the dump station from either way and be able to use it.
There is a gas station nearby that is only a few miles down the road from the entrance of the park. It also has a small convenience store. The nearest town was Douglas, 7 miles away. In the beginning of the video, you see that we go through a gate. The gate does close at night, and they do provide you with a code to be able to access getting in and out from the gate. The park office is also located right as you first enter the gate, and there isn't a whole lot of room to park your rig in order to check in, but you can angle it pretty well and still be able to fit in. Throughout the park as we're driving, you can see that the video does speed up and slow down, and that is because during certain parts of the video, all it is literally us just driving down a road that doesn't have a whole lot to it, and so to spare you some of the time, I went ahead and sped it up because it's just road.
In the park, there were 4 or 5 playgrounds. All of them were in pretty good condition. The kids enjoyed them. They were all just slightly different, but they seemed very well accessed. There was one playground we didn't get to look at, and it's because it was near the cabins. It was in a completely different side of the park. You had to go back out on the main road, and you also needed a gate code to get in there. At the time, we had forgotten our gate code, so we couldn't see if that accessed it. There's also several trails, though when we were there, it was pretty muddy, and it was kind of chilly, so we didn't access those very much. They did have the working farm on their land, and the really cool thing about that was all the buildings were either replicas or they were actually donated by other farmers who had historical buildings. So there ended up being 2 cabins. One was a working museum, and when the kids were there, they were able to make Valentine's cards. They also had a little alligator there and some turtles and other animals you would find in the park. Then there was an outhouse, a smokehouse, a tobacco barn. And they had goats, chickens, hogs, a pony, ducks, and you could actually buy animal feed up at the store for $1.50 for a pound, I think it was, and the kids could go and feed the animals. They don't recommend bringing in bread or anything like that. They did suggest you could bring apples and grapes and a couple other things on one of their signs to feed the animals. So the kids really enjoyed doing that. We did it a couple days.
And there is group camping available here too. We don't drive through that part because at the time that we were there, it actually was closed. It does continue down the road for a bit. You go through a gate, and the group camping area was pretty nice. They do have a vault toilet, kind of almost like a porta potty type style toilet back there, some fire rings, and places to where you'd be able to put your tents and stuff. Tents were able to be used in any of the sites as well, because they were set up to do both, RVs and tents. And there were also other group camping shelters as well that we drove past that were just off to the left. And those were available for rent as well.
In the campground, there were 3 different sets of park hosts, camp hosts, so that was really nice. Their presence was very well known. You could see them driving around. They were cleaning up. Since it was cold when we were there, a lot of the times they were going around and just turning on and off the water to make sure it wasn't frozen. We had a couple days where it did get cold and everything froze, so that was one thing that was inconvenient, but it had nothing to do with the park or anything like that. It was just cold. The kids really liked the park. It was quiet. People pretty much obeyed the rules. We were really close to the playground, so they could go over and play. But we had a pretty nice, there's our camper.
Yep, look, our camper.
But as you can see, when we round the corner back through the trees, you might be able to see the playground. So it was really close. Everybody pretty much obeyed the speed limit. We didn't have any issues with dogs running around. There was a feral cat that we saw. Other than that, there was no big animals or anything we saw.
Yeah, the wildlife was very minimal here. I mean, they say that they do have areas where the gopher tortoises are found and saw, but we didn't see any while we were there. But then again, it was fairly cold, due to the time of year that we were there and the unseasonably just cold weather that the South is also having this year. And it is 2018 when we stayed, so if you're viewing this video at a later time, then that's when it was that we stayed.
One of the new things that they had offered in the park, but we weren't able to actually do, was archery. Apparently at one time they said they had a pool, and when they closed the pool, they filled in the area and they put in an archery range, so you could go up to the camp store and ask to use it. I believe that one had a small fee, and they would go down and unlock the gate for you, and then you could go, and they had targets and stuff. We were going to do it, but with it being so cold while we were there, we just weren't able to. But it was a really neat thing that we hadn't experienced in any of the parks we had stayed at yet, and so we thought that was kind of unique to the park.
Yeah, and for that fee too, you were able to use the archery range for the whole day. So, you could rent it early in the morning, go down and use it, and it did seem like they had several targets lined up, so more than one person could be using the target range. And yeah, so the ability to be able to use it throughout the day was also very nice.
Something that this park had that some of the others we hadn't stayed at had a lot of was there was a lot of vending machines. I think there was like 3 or 4 maybe in this park. And then when we got into the camp store, it was very nicely set up. It was one of the larger ones we had been to, and it also had some things from local vendors and stuff like that. So it was kind of nice that you didn't have to go too far out of the park to find some locally sourced things like soap and um, I think there was like hand lotions and stuff like that. So that was always a neat thing to see what is made locally.
Yeah, and the rangers that we also dealt with in the store were very friendly, and it was it was really nice because we do actually have quite a few questions when we end up going to parks, and they weren't bothered by it at all, and were able to help us out quite a bit and direct give us the correct information and everything. So that was really great.
And it's really nice because when the kids do the Junior Ranger program, they usually end up with lots of questions in order to fill out the booklet. When you fill out the booklet, you earn a patch or a badge depending on which park you're at and which state you're in. And so that kind of helped out a lot because I think Georgia's state park one is like 23 pages or 24 pages long. And there's lots of activities to do in there, and some of them actually require you to talk with somebody or even interview a park ranger. So they were very willing and accommodated and didn't seem too perturbed to have to deal with kids asking 50 million questions, which was really nice.
And with the Junior Ranger program in Georgia, there's you can do it at multiple different parks. You don't just have to do it at the one park that you first started at. So you are able to start it at one and complete it at another one, and still, get your patch or your badge.
And we lucked out because even though it says it's for ages 6 and up, Simon was able to do it, and he's only 4. But also halfway through, Sophie had a birthday, so she was able to work for the 3rd level. And so that was really nice that she didn't have to start a whole new book and fill out stuff.
And this was our drive-through tour and review. Thanks for watching. We're rolling with the stones.